Welcome to the Best Little Town Podcast, your go-to source for everything happening in the town of Bedford's local government. Whether it's new initiatives or important decisions shaping our town's future, you'll hear it right here. This podcast is dedicated to keeping our residents informed and engaged.
Greetings to our listeners. It is Wednesday, December 11th, 2024. My name is Bart Warner. I am blessed to serve as the town manager for the town of Bedford, and this is the Best Little Town Podcast, which is designed to provide a greater depth of information to our citizens, businesses, and interested partners about the workings of the town of Bedford government. Specifically, we do that by recapping the council meetings in greater depth and detail. And since we had one just last night, that's why we're putting this latest episode out. And as I usually do with this podcast, I just kind of work through the agenda as it's published. The first item on the agenda is usually my report to council. And last night I let them know that we have been meeting with the Virginia Department of Transportation, affectionately known as VDOT, regarding the McGee Street Bridge project. For those of you that may or may not be aware, there is a very old one-lane, I think mostly wooden bridge that connects McGee Street to Orange Street, and McGee Street comes off of Longwood Avenue. That bridge was deemed unsafe back in 2019, but VDOT has a grant program called the State of Good Repair program that makes funds available for that very situation, whereby VDOT will actually come in and do the necessary work to bring those things up to code and make sure they're fixed. That bridge was closed to service in 2019. Since that time, we've been working through this grant program, and that's kind of where we are. I kind of gave an update last night to council, getting back to my report, that since we were first awarded a grant from VDOT in that program back in 2020, there has been significant inflation that has affected the cost of the proposed repairs. Based on that, we are currently in the process of applying value engineering as well as seeking additional funding from VDOT and other sources. In any event, we have advised VDOT that this remains a priority and we wish to see it move forward as expeditiously as possible, particularly since that bridge has now been closed for almost 5 years. The next item I reported on was an administrative matter, and that is related to our operating hours for the treasurer's office within Town Hall. We're looking to make a change in the public service hours. Specifically, whereas currently people can come to the front desk there at the treasurer's office and make payments up until 5 o'clock, we're looking at changing that to 4:30 p.m. The main reason for this is to allow our employees in that office to process their direct work related to closing and balancing their cash drawers on a daily basis, as well as to complete their other many tasks. A lot of people aren't aware that the folks who work in the front line at the treasurer's office, part of their job is to be there to greet people cordially and courteously and accept payments and help them with their questions. But in addition to that, they are also processing several ongoing accounts receivable processes, which, with an overall budget of approximately $38 million, that's the kind of corporation we run, and those are the folks who kind of are the guts of that operation, and they have several other tasks in addition to greeting the public. Essentially, their regular business hours would remain the same, but this would hopefully cut down on their need to stay beyond regular office hours because, as I mentioned, in addition to their public role, they have these other duties, and the folks there lately have been working late hours and a lot of overtime hours. This would also be in line with what our neighbors at the county are doing, specifically the county treasurer's office, and this will take effect January 1st. So come January 1st, if you want to pay your bill in person or consult one of the members of our treasurer's staff, we would request that you do that before 4:30 p.m. during business days. Town offices will be closed briefly this Friday, December 13th, from 11 a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. for our annual Employee Appreciation Luncheon event. Once a year, we all get together and break bread and talk about what's happened within staff during the past year. We also recognize employees who meet service award benchmarks at that event. And we appreciate your patience with us while we shut down briefly to do that. Town offices will also be closed in conjunction with holiday observances, December 24th and 25th for Christmas and January 1st in observance of New Year's Day. And I ended my report last night by extending thanks to Bob Carson, Bruce Johannesson, and Tim Black for their service on town council. Last night was effectively their last meeting, since this is the only meeting we have this month. And there are several more comments about that took place throughout last night's meeting. But on a personal note, I appreciate those gentlemen, their support, their obvious dedication for the community, and their ability to tackle difficult and complicated issues during their time on council. Each of them served about 10 years or more in various stints and terms on council, and the last 10 years in the community have certainly been eventful by any stretch. So, moving on into the regular agenda, we had 2 appearances from the public, appearances before council. The first was from Reverend Philip Biles of Bedrock Community Church. He thanked the community leaders for their service and read Romans chapter 15, verse 13. The key focus of that passage is an encouragement from the Apostle Paul to abound in hope. Reverend Biles also offered a prayer on behalf of the council and the community. The next speaker was Teresa Haley of Emerald View Court. She spoke specifically to Mayor Black, Councilman Johannesson, and Councilman Carson, and expressed her gratitude for their service and the many ways personally that she appreciated them and benefited from their service. Moving on to council comments, Councilman Todd Foreman noted that we had several great events within town over the weekend. He complimented police and public works staff. Of course, electric department also had a role to play there on doing a great job with those. He also thanked the departing council members for their service and leadership, and thanked those in the audience who were physically present for the meeting. Councilman Bruce Johannesson noted that it was a pleasure for him to serve, and his only reason for being in the role and for being on council was to help the town. He shared his view that things are generally getting better. There are a lot of neat projects coming down the pike. And he also noted that the events within the past weekend were great in his opinion. Councilman Stacey Haley then spoke. He thanked Reverend Biles for his comment and for the prayer. He also noted the events of the past weekend as being excellent. His view is that the 3 people leaving service on council after 7 years have done a really great job. His view is the point is to be a team, solve problems, and to help the town. He shared some personal observations of the 3 departing council members, of mainly his interactions with Mr. Johannesson when he tried to reach him on the cell phone. Always had great conversations. He noted that Bob Carson was always approachable and several times would invite Stacey personally to his house. And he also noted Mayor Black's participation in the Christmas parade for the last time, and noted that apparently Tim got the last order of oysters Saturday at Clam Diggers. Stacey shared a personal insight, which was, pretty profound, that his view is Tim's proudest moment was probably when his parents, Zach and Carol, who have since left us, were present to see him be elected mayor for the first time. Moving onward, Bob Carson thanked the people who were present, the attendees at the meeting. He also extended his thanks to the other council members. He noted that they became friends and accomplished several things and always tried to do their best. Bob's view was it was a wonderful weekend. The town was full of people, and it's exactly the kind of atmosphere that we'd like to promote and get back to on a regular basis, not just on the holidays. He extended his congratulations and wishes for good luck to the incoming council members, issued a reminder from his perspective that we are servants of the people, and he also noted that personally he is not going to fade away. You'll see Bob continue to be active in the community. He thanked everyone for their kind words, support, and understanding. Councilman Darrell Updike also spoke and thanked the people who were physically present at the meeting. Thanked Reverend Biles for his prayer and words of wisdom. Darrell shared his opinion that there is a lot of wisdom leaving council with these three gentlemen who are departing. He also shared his opinion of the high quality of the events over the weekend, but particularly the Christmas tree lighting sponsored by Jonathan Hayden. And there are a lot of people loving what's going on in town, in Councilman Updike's view. Vice Mayor C.G. Stanley also thanked those in attendance, also commented on the busy Saturday and the events that took place. He noted that for him, it's a bittersweet occasion to see the three people moving on from council. He's enjoyed working with Mr. Black, Mr. Johannesson, and Mr. Carson. He shared some personal insights and observations of his relationships with each, noting that Bruce Johannesson, who sat right next to CG in most meetings for a long time, CG could often tell what Bruce was saying just by reading his expression. He noted that he has known Bob Carson and his family for many years, but got to know him even better during their service on council together and developed an even greater appreciation for him based on that service. He did still have some work to do. That was the shared view of both him and Mr. Carson. He did speak a little bit about Mayor Black and noted that he would also have some additional comments shortly thereafter within the council meeting. CG shared his view that he served with a number of very good mayors. He's enjoyed working with all of them. He did pass along an observation shared with him by a previous mayor, Mike Shelton, years ago. And the gist of it was that council members will meet, they may argue, and they may sometimes disagree, but whichever way the vote ultimately falls, they still leave the council chamber as friends. And CG noted that he would commit to promoting that kind of atmosphere moving forward. He also stated that he pities the person that comes after Tim Black for not being able to do quite as much as Tim did and to demonstrate the level of activity that Tim has in the role. Mayor Black then had a chance to speak, again commented and shared his view that Saturday was a wonderful day and the streets were alive with people. He noted that in his last chance to ride in the parade as mayor, he invited Bedford County Supervisor Chairman Edgar Tuck to ride along with him. He expressed appreciation to all the people who put on the events, including town staff. And at that point, Mayor Black presented parting gifts to Councilman Carson and Councilman Johansson. He noted that he particularly enjoyed his front porch conversations with Bob at his house and noted that Bruce Johansson has served since 2015 and has served as the town's representative on the Central Virginia Planning District Commission along with that. He also passed along a tidbit about Bruce that most people don't know, which is that the lovely hanging floral baskets that are displayed throughout Centertown in the warm weather months are completely provided by Bruce at his expense. Vice Mayor Stanley then stepped up to present the parting gift of appreciation to Mayor Black, noting that Tim was first elected to council in 2014, served as vice mayor from 2017 to 2021, and has served as mayor from 2021 to the present time. He also mentioned Tim's obvious commitment to the community and his frequent activities and the fact that he will most likely remain active. At that point, Mayor Black took back control of the dais and shared his view that a lot had been accomplished in the last 10 years, but there's still a lot to do. He indicated that it's been a humbling experience and it's been his deepest honor to serve his hometown. He expressed appreciation to citizens over the years, appreciation to fellow council members, appreciated the fact that new members are coming and will work with citizens to move the interests of the community. He also appreciates the relationships and friendships over time and thinks there's been a good exchange of ideas throughout that time. He thanked town staff for their efforts, noting that we probably challenged each other quite a bit during his time. And he summed up by saying that he never really expected growing up here that he would ever be mayor, but he's glad that he pursued the opportunity, and he wished everyone the best of luck with their endeavors serving on council. And with that, we moved on to the rest of the council agenda, moving right into the consent agenda. Last night, we received a request to close streets. This came from AAR Roofing, who will be doing some roofing repair work on the Bedford County Courthouse located in Centertown on East Main Street. The project will require the use of a crane, which will be set up on Court Street, and will require closure of that street between Main Street and Depot Street to ensure safety. That anticipated street closure will be taking place from December 16th through 20th next week. And Town Council unanimously voted to approve that street closure request. The next item on the agenda was a presentation from representatives who are working to promote and install a Vietnam War Memorial on the grounds of the Bedford County Courthouse. Retired U.S. Army Colonel Doug Berry spoke on behalf of the group. He said that he was part of the group that is working to initiate erection of this memorial in Bedford, and it's significant given the 50th anniversary of the conclusion of the Vietnam War. Back in 2007, a local retired person had the vision to honor those veterans who did not make it back home to Bedford from Vietnam and who gave their lives there. Over the course of many years, there was a lot of discussion. In June of 2024, that same veteran, along with several others, followed up to create a formal board of directors to drive this project. That group got together, finalized the design, and which will ultimately feature the 13 names that we're aware of the folks who gave their life in service to our country in the Vietnam War. He thanked council for their support, noted that the Board of Supervisors has already approved the location, and indicated that the cost for the monument itself will be approximately $30,000. Their board's goal is to raise $50,000 for related expenses as well as long-term maintenance. And to date, they've received a lot of support from the American Legion, Purple Heart Associations, Veterans in Foreign Wars, and various other organizations, as well as local donors. They're on track to meet their goals without asking for financial assistance from either the town or county governments. In November 2025 is the proposed dedication date for that Vietnam War Memorial on the grounds of the courthouse. Moving on into the agenda, there were several what I will call administrative matters, basically dealing with expenditures in the electric department. As part of the budget approval this year, the electric department, instead of council approving specific line items for specific projects, they basically put a lot of money into a contingency fund and then requested that town staff, primarily Electric Director John Wagner, report on things as they come up and are as they're needed to be done in an effort to both promote transparency and give better insight into cost containment and efficiencies there. The first item last night related to an underground circuit serving Hope's Way. The current circuit has actually failed 4 times over the prior 6 months. The electric department has received a quote of $23,196 to perform this work. Last night, council unanimously voted to fund that project to correct an issue with the underground circuit serving Hope's Way. The next item on the agenda was a similar request for funding. This related, oddly enough, to the apparatus we use to find underground lines that have gone bad. The electric department has an electric fault detector machine that they use to find things underground. Obviously, when power lines are broken overhead, they're easy to identify. When they're buried underground, not so much, and we have limited ability through our SCADA system to do that. Back in October, a quote was received from a vendor for $32,330, and at that time, an emergency contract was posted and awarded to move forward given the urgency of the fact that we really need this essential piece of equipment. And last night, Town Council voted unanimously to amend the budget to appropriately reflect that expenditure of $32,330. The next budget amendment related to our process of moving some of our police personnel to the former community building at Liberty Lake Park. For those of you that are not aware, our police department has been housed entirely in the basement of the municipal building probably since that building opened in 1968, and we've noted a need for expansion of our office space and facilities. And a couple of years ago, we talked about the fact that we have a building that may be somewhat underutilized at Liberty Lake Park that might fit the bill for some of the operations of the police department, specifically the detective operation. In addition to relieving some overcrowding in the basement of the municipal building, it's also anticipated that having a police presence at our largest park on an ongoing basis will be a good thing, will promote good behavior and discourage bad behavior. That's been an ongoing project. We're close to getting those folks moved out there, but as this was kind of a contingency plan itself, we did run into some funding issues where we had to move around money to complete the project. The remaining items are for the front door locks to be fully functional. That's a digital system. And we also need to make sure we have appropriate office furniture there. And last night, the police department requested basically a budget amendment moving around $10,714 for the purpose of completing that move out to Liberty Lake Park. That was also unanimously approved by council. The next purchasing item that came up was again from the electric department, and this related to our need to purchase transformers for commercial development. Again, this kind of gets into the operations of our department. We don't just charge utility bills for electric service. We're also tasked with maintaining the existing system, and we're also tasked with installing the necessary infrastructure ahead of new development. And in this case, our obligations run far ahead of actual groundbreaking most times due to current supply chain issues. Transformers obviously are not a cheap bit of infrastructure. Last night, the electric department asked for $118,000 to purchase 2 transformers. One which cost $30,000 related to the proposed hotel development, and $88,000 attributable towards an electric vehicle charging station at one of our local convenience store and gas stations. There was a little bit of discussion about the process by which the electric department is responsible for ordering and providing that infrastructure. Ultimately, the request for $118,000 of funded contingency was unanimously approved. There was one more budget amendment that relates to an ongoing process whereby we are relicensing our hydroelectric generating facility on the James River at Snowden. That is regulated at the federal level by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC. In order to provide and generate power, we have to make sure that we meet standards established by the federal government in the form of renewing our license. That's been an ongoing multi-year process. And the latest aspect of that was the need to examine the structural integrity of the actual facility itself at Snowden, which is over 100 years old. Basically, the license renewal is a multifaceted process. There's several factors involved, and this was just kind of the latest. Electric staff requested $30,360 to fund the activities by our consultant who's helping us with that process, and that was also unanimously approved last night by council. The next item before council was a request from the developer of the Hampton Inn, which is proposed to be constructed at Burks Hill Road near Tiger Trail. The developer of that project noted that there is a cost associated with our need to provide electric infrastructure of $65,328, and they were inquiring as to whether council would be able and or willing to waive either all or a part of that cost. Probably, unfortunately, in the case of the party that was petitioning, that being D-Day Homestay LLC, no representatives of the group were present. Council obviously had a lot of questions and concerns about that. And ultimately, there was a motion to table that matter made by Councilman Haley seconded by Councilman Updike, that was unanimously passed. So that means that if these folks want to be given further consideration for that request, they're going to have to come back personally, and council will have to act to even take the matter off the table. Sorry, to discuss that. The remaining items of new business related to code amendments, the first of which related to language in section 46-37 of the town code, which indicated that the town will not, as a matter of policy, pick up leaves left in the public right-of-way by licensed commercial contractors. Based on some questions we've received from citizens about that policy, staff revisited the matter, had a lot of conversations about the practicality of it, and found that really there was no practical reason for such an exclusion. I also mentioned to council that despite the fact that this has been a matter of code, our public works staff has actually been providing pickup services anyway, so we really just wanted to make the amendment to town code to delete the language saying we wouldn't pick it up, when in fact our view is if it's out there and it meets our other standards, otherwise we're going to pick it up. Town council voted unanimously to delete the language stating that we would not pick up leaves put in the right of way by licensed commercial contractors, which means as long as you can get them out to the curb in accordance with our regulations, otherwise we will provide that service without any further questions. Next item on council's agenda was another town code relating to refuse collection. Section 46-39 states that the town created an exception in the list of refuse that is considered not acceptable. Specifically, the town code says that staff will not collect heavy construction debris placed out in conjunction with activity. Typically contractors, when they're doing large jobs, they'll haul those things off directly to the landfill, and that's preferable to actually putting things out in the curb because, frankly, our trucks and tools are limited in how much they can carry off at one time. However, again, in kind of an odd foible, town code noted that while we prohibit such collection at all other times, there was an exception that said we would do so during spring and fall cleanup weeks. Again, staff reviewed that language and found that inconsistency created a practical hardship from both a code enforcement and operational perspective, and council voted unanimously to make the code change, deleting that language. So the net result of that is it's not acceptable at any time to put out heavy construction debris related to construction activity at the curb. For major contracts and construction activities, it's best for the contractors involved to haul those directly to the appropriate landfill facility. The last item on council's agenda last night related to changes in the building code provisions of town code. This came as a recommendation from Gary McIver, who is our town building official. He noted that there are several current code provisions that are out of date and are out of compliance with state law, as well as several fees related to that are either low or otherwise outdated. Last night, we requested that town council go ahead and make changes to the code to put us in compliance with the state law, and also to consider discussion of the fees associated with the building code aspect of town code as part of the budget process. And that will take place in our discussions. Essentially, council amended the rules to bring us up to date with the state and deferred the effective date of the repeal of the fee language until July 1st, which gives us time to discuss that as part of the budget. So, long story short, the town code is now fully compliant and reflective of what state code requires, and the fees that are associated with certain building activities will be discussed during the development of the fiscal year 25-26 budget. And that concluded what was a somewhat lengthy agenda for last night's council. Again, it was the last council meeting for Tim Black, Bruce Johannesson, and Robert Carson. Beginning in January, Jay Ippolito, Dwight Evans, and David Foster will take their place on council. Councilman Todd Foreman will begin a new 4-year term, and the council will meet on January the 2nd at 4 o'clock p.m. for their organizational meeting. At that meeting, the council will elect the mayor and the vice mayor from within their ranks. Bedford is maybe a little unusual in that regard, in that the mayor of the town is not directly elected, but rather chosen from within the ranks of council. And again, that will take place on January 2nd. In the meantime, we hope everyone has a very healthy and happy holiday season. Personally, I wish you a very Merry Christmas. And I'll close by alluding to our title once again, Best Little Town. We bill ourselves as the world's best little town. Sometimes that's a goal. Sometimes that's a boast. Oftentimes it's just purely an aspiration. But we like having that in front of us because it keeps us motivated and keeps us on our toes. And if we fall short, we'll do our best to fix it and keep moving forward. As you move forward in the closing of the year and in the new year to come, I thank you for your patience, and I hope you will be richly blessed. Till next time, thank you for listening.